Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, What's New with MOVEit 2022.1. Today, we are joined by our speakers, David Perez and Andrew Larandos. David Perez is a Senior Product Marketing Manager for the MOVEit product line at Progress. David has been a marketing professional and consultant with some of the top semiconductor, data center hardware, and enterprise software companies in Silicon Valley. Andrew Larandos is a CISSP certified IT professional with over 10 years experience responding to both internal and external customer queries. He has acted as a subject matter expert for executive leadership, external users, and vendors, creating an environment of trust and professionalism. I'll now turn it over to David to start the presentation. David?
Thank you, Rachel. Hi, everyone. It's great to be with you today. I'm very excited to talk with you about what's new in Progress MOVEit 2022.1. This is our agenda for today. I know you may or may not be familiar with Progress, so I want to get through some introductory slides and help you understand what Progress is about and the business we're in and how we help organizations throughout the world. Talk a little bit about managed file transfer and its relationship to cybersecurity, why it matters. And then we'll get into the details. MOVEit 2022.1, this most recent release from Progress. And then we'll talk about who MFT and specifically MOVEit is created for. Walk through some of the MOVEit architectures that are commonly in place with our customers. And then for your review, your own time, I have a number of case studies that we can share with you. And yes, I will share the slide deck at the end of our presentation here today, and we'll do some Q&A. So with that, why don't we just dive in? First things first, I really want you to get to know Progress. You may or may not have heard of Progress. We've been around 40 years. I mean, a long time in tech standards, and really, we're all about software. We're helping over 1,700 software companies build their applications on Progress software. We have a 3.5 million plus strong developer community, hundreds of thousands of enterprises running their high impact applications on Progress software. And that translates to over 6 million business users that use Progress software on the daily, and hundreds of millions of consumers that run applications that run on Progress products. And as far as the underlying strength of Progress, we've been around a long time. We are delivering over 600 million in annual revenue, high margins, over 2,000 employees in 20 countries. So really a global software company. And we invest in our products. Something that we're very proud of is that when a software company is acquired by Progress, we continue to invest in the development of those products. Everything that we offer is a going concern, and that includes MOVEit Managed File Transfer. And just to wrap it all together, it's our mission to be the trusted provider of the best products to develop, deploy, and manage high impact applications. MOVEit is definitely one of those. So let's step into managed file transfer and cybersecurity. Why managed file transfer? Well, obviously, secure file sharing is paramount. So industry analysts are predicting that through 2023, government regulations that require organizations to protect consumer privacy rights will cover 5 billion citizens, more than 70% of the global GDP. These are enormous numbers, and we're moving beyond a phase where we're strictly worried about compliance with cybersecurity standards, and we're getting into the realm of trying to protect personally identifiable information across the board, across all industries, just as the new standards of data security, information security. Obviously, privacy is something that is separate from security, but security definitely plays a part in delivering privacy. We're also seeing that hacktivism and state actors are increasing cyber attacks globally. We see that that will probably continue well into 2023. And as a result, cybersecurity will remain the top investment priority for IT teams globally. That is why managed file transfer is an essential part of developing a really complete and effective security posture. It's not just nice to have, it is essential security. So what's been happening without managed file transfer in place? Lots of different things. So data breaches surged by 70% quarter over quarter to affect almost 109 million accounts in Q3 of 2022 alone. Now, just to put this in perspective, how is this a growing problem? Well, those Q3 numbers are almost as big as the number of accounts and emails that were breached in all of the first half of the year. And so that was close to 64 million accounts breached in Q2, 63 million in the Q1. So things are ramping up. And we're seeing this happen in organizations across industries that you will recognize. Uber, transportation, Rockstar Games, it was a huge breach. And video games obviously are affecting people, individually, personally, around the world. Shein, which is a fashion and clothing delivery company. U-Haul, everyone I think, at least in North America, is familiar with U-Haul, helping people move their household from one place to another. Some sensitive information there. Twitter has been affected. Marriott Hotels, Flagstar Bank. If you're not familiar with Ronin Network, it's basically a blockchain developer for gamers, as I understand it. And, when it comes to delivering sensitive data, blockchain has a lot of promise, but even companies who work in that area, and that's their bread and butter, are being affected. So really, we're seeing that there's a big need for managed file transfer to protect sensitive data across all these industries. So as I mentioned before, managed file transfer is essential security. And this is made apparent to all of us, day to day, just by the fact that we're looking at a workforce that has, 60% of knowledge workers working remotely. Their sensitive data can be exposed in transit. We're seeing that 1 in 4 enterprises have increased their IT spending in response to a specific security incident. And more than 84% of organizations have a strict cybersecurity or data security compliance standard they have to meet in order to just stay in operation. And you take all of this together, it becomes really apparent if your most sensitive data is not secure when you send it, or even when you store it, then nothing else matters. It really undermines the foundational purpose of organizations when that sensitive data is not secure. So with that context, I'd like to introduce you to the latest release of Progress MOVEit 2022.1. If you haven't heard of Progress MOVEit before, it is the leading managed file transfer application. Really gives you the features that you need to tackle things like compliance and giving you complete visibility over the transfer of sensitive data throughout your organization. Thousands of organizations worldwide are using Progress MOVEit, and they're using it for mission critical data. They're choosing MOVEit because it's encrypting data at rest, transit, offers automation that will help to eliminate human error, improve operational efficiency, and gives IT teams the opportunity to do that without the need for programming. And of course, if you're trying to meet a specific cybersecurity standard like HIPAA, SOC 2, PCI DSS, and other standards of a similar sort, Progress MOVEit is set up to help you meet those standards. So as a product family, there are a number of different components that make up the Progress MOVEit product. To start off, MOVEit Transfer is a secure file transfer server application. It's a Windows application, so you can install it on premises as a Windows Server application. You could also run it on an Azure instance that you manage yourself. If you would prefer to use managed file transfer as a service, we offer MOVEit Cloud, where Progress hosts MOVEit transfer on the Azure cloud and allows you to get up and running quickly and worry much less about the underlying infrastructure because you've got both Progress and Azure backing you up. To that, we also offer MOVEit Automation, which gives you a way to automate workflows, especially complicated workflows, and still ensure compliance and enable easy to secure user access. MOVEit Gateway, of course, is our DMZ resident reverse proxy. So if you want to make sure that MOVEit transfer or automation is operating behind your firewall, but you want to give users outside your organization secure access to MOVEit transfer and MOVEit automation, you can do that. And some of the key features of MOVEit, this is where, for me, it's really exciting to talk about because this is the bread and butter. This is what makes MOVEit so great. It really is secure file transfer. We talked about automation being available without scripting and without programming, just phenomenal. It provides you with a complete audit trail. So when you're using managed file transfer, you really care about being able to demonstrate that your files are secure. And, it's important to be able to prove it. So we give you a complete audit trail. It's tamper evident. It gives you secure folder sharing. It's not EFSS. And a lot of times when people say, hey, I need to securely share a file, you start talking about services like Dropbox or Box, where individuals are accessing those services and uploading files that could be of a very sensitive nature to that cloud-based service. This is not that, because we have central visibility and there's full control over the permissions to the sensitive files, and that all remains under your IT team's control. And to that, we have live view dashboards that give you a complete picture of all of that activity. You can do ad hoc transfers, and this enables individual end users to leverage the power of MOVEit Secure File Transfer from Outlook or from Mac and Windows desktop clients, even from mobile and web clients. So really versatile, really flexible types of access to ad hoc transfers. And of course, we help you make access to the application even more secure through multi-factor authentication, password resets, sign-on acceptance. I mentioned the mobile app is one of the ways of using MOVEit, and not just for ad hoc transfers. You can also integrate MOVEit with your environment through REST and Java APIs. One of my favorite recently added features, automatic encryption key rotation. So if you have policy internally that you need to rotate your encryption key, MOVEit will help you do that so that it becomes an automated process that doesn't disrupt your regular operations. And we see more and more that users of managed file transfer need compatibility with all kinds of different endpoints. MOVEit offers compatibility with any S3 compatible endpoint. And yes, I'm referring to Amazon Web Services symbol storage service protocol. And as I mentioned before, we like to pride ourselves on maintaining a current release of our software and keeping it up to date, making it more secure. And that is evidenced by the fact that we have on average 2 releases per year. And to that, we add industry-leading support online and through our community. So much for the features. What about the benefits? These are really the pillars of why people choose MOVEit managed file transfer. Bottom line up front, MOVEit is the easiest enterprise-grade MFT solution to deploy, to use, and to maintain. And making it easy is what we try to do every day. MOVEit makes collaboration, like connecting endpoints and connecting users, seamless. And it makes it easy to securely share files in a number of different ways. We're offering our customers compliance for peace of mind. When it comes to meeting a cybersecurity standard, a lot of times that is essential to just operating. It's something that has to be done. It's job zero, and MOVEit gives you the peace of mind, especially MOVEit Cloud, when meeting those standards. And what that does ultimately is it offers your IT team more time for what matters. So you're going to ease the burden on them by replacing in-house file transfer tools that maybe they even created themselves, or something that they found and tried to implement on a user by user basis. So we make it so that we've got a centralized solution, industry leading, so they can get back to doing the things that actually move your organization forward. And these are really incredible benefits. As far as our place in the industry, we've been around a long time, and we've gotten pretty good at delivering world-class managed file transfer. MOVEit leads across multiple categories in the G2 software reviews for MFT. I encourage you to check out these analyst reports. We've been ranked #1 twice in the past year from these surveys, and grateful that users of MFT that use MOVEit are willing to share their vote of confidence with us and with the industry. So who actually needs MOVEit? Who would care to have this in their organization? Well, we find that it's very common to find a need for MFT in healthcare, which includes hospitals, integrated delivery networks, and there are lots of different contributors within an organization who really care about the delivery of sensitive files in a secure way. I could include lots of different titles across these different industries, but you'll look for IT architects, compliance officers, IT directors, admins, CISOs. And these titles vary across industries. These are really our top four: healthcare, BFSI, which more commonly known, I guess, as banking, financial services, and industry; government, and that includes both federal and local governments; and manufacturing. And most recently, I'd say I've been introduced to some industries that I didn't realize could take advantage of the benefits of MOVEit, like mining in Latin America, like education, and very large. I guess it kind of falls under the governmental umbrella, but education departments taking advantage of MOVEit. So if you weren't sure who in your organization would need to know more about managed file transfer, it will probably be some of these individuals in these different kinds of industry verticals. Now let's get into the features and improvements that come with the MOVEit Transfer 2022.1 release. To start off, we're offering TLS 1.3 support for improved security. We're also offering language localization for the MOVEit add-in for Microsoft Outlook. Something we're particularly proud of: an improved ad hoc experience for users as they use the ad hoc functionality of MOVEit. It's just a lot smoother, more intuitive, and powerful to use. Something of particular interest to our customers: AWS RDS compatibility. Notice the AHA there to the side. That indicates that it was a feature that was requested by the MOVEit community, and we listened. We incorporated this into MOVEit Transfer. And let me explain a little bit more about this. AWS Relational Database Service, or RDS, obviously has support for lots of different database types. What this release does is make it possible to use the Microsoft SQL database provided by AWS RDS, so that you can offload that portion of MOVEit to AWS and develop a hybrid environment, hybrid deployment. And that's going to give users a lot less to worry about, because again, there's AWS backing up the RDS service, and it just makes it much more flexible for MOVEit users to develop the deployment that works best for them. We're also offering a new SFTP library and FIPS 140-2 compatibility for SFTP. Now that's MOVEit Transfer 2022.1. We're also offering MOVEit Automation 2022.1 with its own features. Some of them you will see are consistent from transfer to automation. We also implemented TLS 1.3 to support for automation. Again, you'll see some MOVEit community requested features, advanced tasks. This means that in MOVEit Automation, users will be able to disable specific steps in their workflow, add comments to it to make troubleshooting easier, and to really give that granular control over advanced tasks that makes using MOVEit Automation such an easy thing. We're also offering AWS RDS compatibility in the same way as transfer. It's support for Microsoft SQL in RDS. And we've improved secure parameters and also offered FIPS 140-2 compatibility for SFTP. Now, as far as MOVEit architecture, if you're not familiar with MOVEit already, I wanted to at least give you a quick overview of how MOVEit is implemented for a lot of our customers. This is fairly typical. So what you see here in the DMZ is that you can use FTPS, SFTP, HTTPS, or one of the AS standards to connect with MOVEit Transfer. And then you can leverage MOVEit Automation to, open PGP, zip, or other kinds of processes and connect that with your own secure network, which remains behind your firewall and gives you the opportunity, looking out, to connect with endpoints on the internet, including any of these secure file transfer server types, Azure Blob, AWS S3, even SharePoint email servers and S/MIME email servers. It also gives you the ability here to connect with the MOVEit Transfer server through web browser, through mobile users, and some of the different clients we mentioned. And I wanted to mention here too, we're maintaining a high level of security by way of controlling the access to MOVEit Transfer, MOVEit Automation, by using things like identity and access management tools that integrate with both of these applications and are strengthened by using multi-factor authentication. So this is pretty common sort of architecture. I want to mention here too that Progress MOVEit Cloud also offers similar kind of functionality in the Azure cloud. But one important and really wonderful aspect of using MOVEit Cloud is that when you implement MOVEit Cloud in your environment, into your workflow, you already get to take advantage of these certifications that we have documentation for, including HIPAA, PCI DSS, SOC 2. So when compliance is really at the top of your requirements list, MOVEit Cloud really makes an awesome addition. Now, I mentioned there's a lot of case studies here. I just want to start off by mentioning German company Der AG just recently adopted MOVEit, and wonderful thing about their implementation of MOVEit is they're sending large volumes of files that include personally identifiable information, and even with this very high volume of data, they're finding it easy to install, easy to use, easy to maintain, and it's something that enables them to securely connect data to all of their locations worldwide. There are a number of different use cases that I'd like to recommend that you take a moment offline and just get to know how MOVEit is helping customers in healthcare, in finance, and all different kinds of verticals. So that is all I wanted to share with you about the latest MOVEit release. I want to thank you so much for your time. I think we've got a few minutes now that we could take some questions. And I am here with Andrew Larandis to help answer any questions you might have. Rachel, I'll turn the time back to you.
Thanks, David. Now we're going to transition to the Q&A. And just a reminder to our audience to please ask your questions for David and Andrew in the questions panel. Looks like we already have a few questions coming in, so I'll pass it back off to David to take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. So thanks again, everyone, for being here. I just want to start off with a general question I received, and that is there a dedicated MOVEit cloud offering in EMEA or in the UK specifically? Andrew, would you be able to talk to that a little bit?
Sure. So there are various deployments around the world of MOVEit Cloud. So yes, there would definitely be some in those regions. There is also the availability of a dedicated offering, which you would be able to work with our product management team to determine where that should be deployed. So that is always an option. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And so the default deployment of MOVEit Cloud is really multi-tenant, but you could get a dedicated MOVEit Cloud deployment if that's what your organization needs, basically.
Exactly. Yep.
Excellent. Next question is a little more technical on the technical side. Will the VB script API still work on MOVEit 2022.1 as in the previous versions? Actually, they're asking about 2021 MOVEit. So there, I may have to defer to you again, Andrew. I think that's a little bit more in the weeds than I'm familiar with.
Sure, no problem. So as far as the VB script API, I'm not aware of any changes between the two versions. Those interfaces are still there in version 2022. So there shouldn't be any impact. With that being said, I would always recommend as part of any upgrade process to go through just a test upgrade on a secondary system, maybe a test or UAT system, if you have that available, just to make sure that everything functions as you expect.
No doubt. That's great. I appreciate that question. Another question that's come up, what is the difference between using MOVEit Cloud and running a MOVEit transfer license in Azure? And I can take that on. I think the best way to think about it is MOVEit Transfer is our Windows Server application. And when you have a license for MOVEit Transfer, you can deploy it on-prem, or you could deploy it on an Azure instance that you spin up and monitor. And MOVEit Cloud is essentially MOVEit Transfer in the Azure cloud, but Progress is the one doing all of the application management, upgrades, and monitoring for you, and we're providing it as a service. So there's really nothing more to do than set up users and help them, get acquainted with the features of MOVEit from that point. And so it's the difference between getting managed file transfer as a service on MOVEit Cloud and managing Windows Server application for MFT as you might normally do. Hope that answers that question. Great. Let's see, any other questions? What kinds of industries is MOVEit Cloud appropriate for? Really they're the same as those that have traditionally used MOVEit, and for us that we've seen primarily healthcare being really popular for MOVEit and MOVEit Cloud. A category that we refer to as BFSI, that's banking, financial services, and insurance. So everything related to finance. We also see a lot of companies that work in manufacturing, including mining, find that they have very sensitive information that they need to protect. And it just makes sense because their intellectual property and sharing that intellectual property it's kind of a bet the business exercise, and you just can't risk, having it unencrypted at any point. And so MOVEit makes complete sense for them. And of course, governments everywhere from like a federal or national level government down to, county or local governments. So lots of diversity there. Basically anywhere that personally identifiable information, personal healthcare information is exposed, it's important. Something else I want to clarify too, someone brought this up in a previous conversation earlier today, is MOVEit protecting data or is it protecting files? And really we should say it is protecting files. So it is not like a block-based storage encryption sort of application. We're really encrypting your files at rest and in transit. And so when we say we're protecting your sensitive data, it's the data that resides in files. So I hope we can clear that confusion as well. So some great questions so far. Not seeing anything else coming up just at the moment. If you go through the documentation for this release of MOVEit, you find that you have some questions for us that we can answer offline. By all means, please send them our way. We'd love to help. We have just one more question pop up. Is MOVEit single sign-on compatible? And in particular, single sign-on via Duo. And I'm not familiar with Duo. Andrew, is that something you're familiar with? I know we do support single sign-on for MOVEit transfer and I believe automation as well.
We do support the single sign-on for MOVEit transfer and or cloud.
Okay.
We could connect to really any single sign-on provider as long as they have a SAML 2.0 interface.
Yep.
In doing so, we would go out to that authentication portal that would send an assertion back to MOVEit that we would then be able to authenticate that user with. But yes, we could definitely support really any identity provider with SAML.
Okay, great question. Hope that answers that specifically. But again, send us your questions by email, what have you. We're happy to address those however we can. Let me see. There's a question about the cost difference percentage between MOVEit transfer hosted on your own VM versus MOVEit cloud. And there, I'd have to say, it depends. It's a huge asterisk, and I'm sorry, it can't be more specific, but it really comes down to usage and the administrative overhead that you have available to dedicate to that. It's really fairly low overhead to run MOVEit transfer on-prem. In terms of the number of people there, it really can be a one-person job, but of course there should be redundancy just as a best practice, and there's costs involved there. Andrew, any advice for someone trying to price this out better?
Yeah, as far as the cost difference there, that's definitely something that I would recommend working with your account manager, just because that is something that we can, if you have MOVEit transfer on premise currently, we actually have reports that we can provide you, get that usage information and apply that to the MOVEit cloud licensing structure to really provide you a really good, accurate quote as far as what that would look like. But that's definitely something that we do pretty commonly. So happy to work with you on that one.
Awesome. Had a follow-up to the VB question earlier. Is there a tool to convert VB script to the new RESTful API or a guide on how to convert the VB script process to the new RESTful API? Sure.
Yeah. There's not going to be necessarily a tool to convert existing VB scripts to REST API. They could potentially be different applications. It would probably be something that we would want to scope from a professional services engagement to really see, exactly how they're deployed today and how we would go about transitioning over to the new REST API. I would say it's probably not a requirement per se to do that, though. So unless if there's a compelling need to do that, you shouldn't have to.
Yep, fair enough. And I think we've got time for at least maybe one or two more questions. We have a question about will the new features in the admin tool be in the hard client as well? And there, I assume you're referring to the web interface versus the various MOVEit client applications. And yeah, short answer, yes, they should be consistent across all the client interfaces. You know, if you have a discrepancy there that's a deal breaker for you or is causing you difficulty, by all means, give us a call, and we'll have a support ticket. We'll help you walk through that. And this is something I have not encountered in the wild, and I think this is a great question. We're going to see more and more that MOVEit connects to different kinds of storage types and storage protocols. Last year we added, or in this year, we added connectivity for any S3 compatible storage out there. Someone's asking, can I send or receive a file from Google Drive? And, you know, maybe you can speak to this a little bit better than I could, Andrew, but really we're using MOVEit Transfer as a, consolidated repository of your sensitive files, right? And all of the access and the sharing goes through, that central, single repository. Have you seen people trying to use or integrate like Google Drive with the MOVEit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is a need for that in a lot of situations, from especially the MOVEit automation side, to be able to route files back and forth from various resources. And I think as those needs arise and you run into new host types that you'd like to see within MOVEit automation, really the best way, and this is true for any feature request, but the best way is really through our community portal on the ideas section. I know David mentioned as we were going through a few features that were added from that ideas portal, and that really is the best way to help us prioritize by either voting for or submitting your own ideas as far as what would go into feature releases from a product management perspective. So that's very beneficial from both our perspective and, of course, to get those features actually implemented.
Absolutely. And that's something that, we take pride in, and we really look forward to receiving feedback from customers about what features ought to be in MOVEit and what's working, what's not, because we do take that very seriously, and we absolutely bake that into ongoing releases. So with that, thank you again, everyone, for joining us for today's webinar. And again, here's my email. If you'd like to drop me a line, we can chat more or connect on LinkedIn. And thank you, Andrew, for joining us today as well.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
See you.